So as I started this final project and as I looked at what other people were doing and as they were presenting, I kind of came down to one big idea that I wanted to talk about, and that was, does conceptual understanding really matter? Does it make a difference? Does it affect learners if they have a deeper understanding or if they just have the procedural knowledge of how to solve the problems? And is it going to have an effect on their math? So I decided to write my questions about division of fractions because I think it's one that we don't have a lot of deeper understanding of what it actually means to divide by a fraction. The questions, I asked them to 7 different people, and the females you can see range from ages 13 to 53, and the males from 17 to 47. The first 2 questions were written as number sentences, so 3 divided by 1/2. I kind of wanted to see if people would get confused about dividing by 2 and dividing by 1/2, but as you can see, most people got it correct. There were a couple misunderstandings of what exactly that meant. The next one, 1 3/4 divided by 1/6, was one I didn't foresee as being such a huge problem. I think what made people confused was because the answer is 10.5, and it just doesn't seem like 1 3/4 dividing by 1/6, such small numbers, would get you such a big difference. So you can see only 2 people got it correct, a couple people got it in an incorrect format, and then 3 didn't know at all. And then the next 2 problems I did were word problems, 6 divided by 3/4, and 1 1/4 divided by 1/3. And you can see people had way easier time with that because they could see what it was actually asking and have kind of an idea of what they needed to do to find the answer. The first one, 3 divided by 1/2, there were 2 major misconceptions. The first one, someone just put 3 over 2. So they were dividing by 2 instead of dividing by half, which was kind of what I first saw as happening. The next one was interesting. It was someone who didn't remember how to multiply fractions. So she remembered to flip and multiply. So she got to the 3 over 1 times 2 over 1. But then she didn't remember what to do with it, so she just added across to get 5 over 2, or 2.5 was her answer. And for her, if she didn't have the deeper understanding, she didn't realize that she didn't remember how to do it, and so she didn't get the right answer. The next one, 1 3/4 divided by 1/6 equals 10.5. Besides the 3 people who just couldn't get it, it just seemed like 10.5 was too big, kind of like I talked about, and also people didn't reduce it completely. I had someone put 10.5, I had someone else leave it as a mixed fraction without reducing. The next one, 6 divided by 3/4, I wrote that as a word problem. So each day you could paint 3/4 of a house. How many days would it take to paint 6 houses? And there really weren't any misconceptions about it. A lot of people drew pictures. Some people flipped and multiplied. The only person who didn't get it right just didn't draw the picture quite right. They just messed it up at the end and they got 7.5, which is actually really close. But people were able to see that exactly what they needed to do in order to solve the problem. The next one, 1 1/4 divided by 1/3, was actually everybody's easiest problem, because I wrote it in a way that I thought would be really easy. Mom gives you 1/3 of a box of chocolates and it weighs 1 1/4 pounds. So how many pounds did the whole box weigh? Everyone understood it. Almost everyone drew out 1/3 plus 1/3, 1 1/4, 1 1/4, 1 1/4. And it was really easy to see how that translated to 1 1/4 times 3. The only person who didn't get 3 3/4 didn't reduce 15/4 correctly, and they ended up getting the wrong answer. But it just showed how being able to see it in real life and have that understanding made it way easier for people to solve. And you could really see why we flip and multiply. It gave it a context. So in conclusion, after my 7-person survey, I realized, I thought, does conceptual understanding really matter? And I decided that for some people, it might not matter. For my husband and for my dad, they knew instantly when they saw division of fractions to flip and multiply and had no problem remembering that that's exactly what they needed to do. For other people, like my mother-in-law and my mom, they didn't quite remember what it meant to flip and multiply or how to do that, and so they really struggled with those equations. It wasn't until they got to the word problems and they ended up flipping and multiplying without realizing what they were doing, that they were able to figure it out. And both of them said, I've never been very good at math. I think having that deeper conceptual knowledge is really the difference between always struggling with understanding what's happening or why it works, or really understanding. So what it comes down to is, are we trying to teach those kids who have a really good understanding, who get it easily, who understand the equations and can remember them forever, or are we trying to teach all of our students, even if we have to go deeper, we have to show them why it works so that they can have that lifelong understanding of math? So, thanks.